All right, let's take a look at this another way, because I like this. The way the student handled this question is by starting with what we gave and then rearranging. So Q equals P minus 170 over 2. Right, so P minus 170, we've moved that over there, equals 2Q. Divide by 2, and we've got P minus 170 over 2. Gives us our supply curve, and from the demand we've got P minus 5Q plus 450, and that is going to turn into P minus 450 all over minus 5 gives us Q. And now we can set these two equal to each other and solve, but what the student did is said, let's put the subsidy in over here. So in this case, I'm going to follow along directly with what she did. And I think there's a tiny adjustment to make, but we'll see when we get to it. So over 2, P minus 450 over minus 5. So what she's done is she said that for here, we're really dealing with P minus S, not P, right? So there's the price to the buyer determines their quantity, and the price to the seller, she's putting in P minus S. Now, I'm going to keep along with this, but as we saw, what really matters is P plus S, right? So if we're treating here as the price as demanders see it, P minus S means that we're looking at a lower price. That means we're going to get something really weird. We're going to be going way further down the supply curve. I think effectively what she's done is set up a model for a tax. But let's keep at it. So we're going to cross multiply. So we got minus 5 times P minus S. This doesn't really need to be in brackets, but whatever. Equals 2 times P minus 450. Let's simplify this out. We've got minus 5P plus 5S plus 5 times 170 equals 2P minus 900. Let's figure this out. So 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 70 is going to be 350. 5 times 100 is going to be 500. So 500 plus 350. Pretty sure that's right. So what do we got now? We're going to move S over to one side. We're going to isolate for P. So, well, we got the positive P over here. Let's go ahead and move in that direction. Actually, let's tidy this up a sec first. So minus 5P plus 5S plus 850 equals 2P minus 900. So if we add 900 and we also add 5P, that gets rid of this, this gets rid of this, and we're left with 7P. Oh, sorry, I'm going off screen. 7P, we've got a 5S, and then we got 850 plus 900. That would be the same as 1800 minus 50, which is 1750. It feels familiar. All right, so now we want to get down to just P. So we can divide by 7, and we get P equals 1750 plus 5S all over 7, which 1750. So now we're starting to go astray from what we were doing just a minute ago. So plugging 10 in for S, we've got 1750 plus 50, which gives us 1800 over 7, as opposed to the 1700 over 7 we had here. Now, this is going to look kind of close to this. 1800 over 7 Not divisible by 7. So let's just bring out the calculator. 1800 divided by 7. And we're getting 257.14 as opposed to, now 257 and 1/7 instead of 242 and 6/7. So very close. I think it was like 0.6 was the decimal form of what we had over there. Move this down. So this equals 257 and 1/7, which is very, very close to the, what do we set, 242? So this is 252. 257 is quite close. It really feels like the right thing, but actually what we're doing there is we're moving over to here. We're moving up the demand curve. So if we plug 257 into the demand curve, what we should find is a number smaller than 40. And if we plug 257 minus S into the supply curve, that's going to move us down here. Right? So in effect, what this student has found is where we hit the supply curve. Sorry, where we would get a tax. Now, the way I've drawn this is not great. I've made these a little too symmetrical in terms of their slope. So like we said, the demand curve is a little bit steeper. Let's go ahead and just redraw it over here. Draw it nice and big so that we can really make sense of what's going on. So we had a relatively steep demand curve compared to our supply curve. We know that there's a $10 gap with the subsidy, and the student had a $10 gap that was really capturing the tax. So 257 is over here. 252 is the answer to where we hit the supply curve with the subsidy. 250 is where we went without the subsidy. Then we got 247 as the bottom end of this tax. And 242 would be the bottom end of this demand curve, the bottom end of this subsidy. So essentially what's going on is with this tax, we're not getting the way I drew over here where we get just 252, 252 on either one because the slopes don't line up, right? So given the way the slopes are, we've got this $10 gap that's the same size as this $10 gap over here, basically. I didn't quite do it to scale, but I'm close enough to make the point. So pretend like this is the same vertical distance as this. They're both about an inch. Given the slopes, when we add this subsidy, which means the buyers pay a low price and the sellers get $10 more, the result is we end up over here. Now let's see what happens if we plug in a negative value for S instead of what we had here. So in that case, what we're going to have, let's go ahead and do this in green. Let's say S equals -10. Then this is going to be 1750 minus 50 over 7, which gives us 1700 over 7, which gives us the 242 and 6/7, which is what we're actually looking for. So this student got the correct answer to the wrong question, which is what price do we end up with a $10 tax? But just by flipping how we think about that tax to a negative tax, we do get the correct answer. So all of her math was exactly correct. S as a symbol for tax is kind of weird. We would normally call that T, but fundamentally she had all the information in there to get to where she was supposed to be. Great, this was a very fruitful minor mistake. So again, coming back, if we'd put in P plus S over here, we would have gotten to the answer 242 and 6/7. And if we go back to here where we are dealing with, where did it go? Did it over here, where we're dealing with a lower price for buyers and then add in s as extra reward instead of taking it away, if we put in a positive s here, we would have gotten to the same answer. And then if we changed the question and said, what if we had a tax of $10? If we go in this way, if we plug in minus 10 at this point, so subsidy equals minus 10, i.e. a tax, in that case, we're going to have 250 minus 5. Let's go all the way over here. That minus means that this is going to become a plus, which is going to give us that 1800 over 7, which is going to give us that 257 and 1/7. Right? So again, it's all the same stuff. The structure is in there. The basic information about the nature of this market is built into that answer. It was just a little teeny thing. You flip that negative, you get the right answer, but you don't even need to do that. You can just recognize we accidentally built a tax model, not a subsidy model, and then you just plug in a negative tax, and that gives you the same outcome as the subsidy. So great job to that student, and thank you for sharing this mistake. Like I said, it's a little mistake. It's just about the interpretation, right? So all the math you did, it looks like you're pointing in the wrong direction, but because we're encompassing all this information about the slopes and the positions of where these curves are, it's just a tiny little thing to get the right outcome out of that.